recap of Wednesday's class. I'm talking about images and how to work with images in InDesign. So here is my exceptionally boring poster. It's boring, not gonna lie, but by Jupiter, I've got my hierarchy in the right order. I have my headline, I have my subhead, I have my intro copy. And by the way, these are in text boxes separate from this text box. The way I've got this set up, I have a single text box with multiple columns set up. If you have single columns that are threaded together, that's okay. But I just wanted to point out that I have broken these out, right? So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to place my logo. Now, it's the Metropolitan Opera. I'm going to create a picture box. I'll turn my grid on. I'm going to have the logo down here. The design flow takes us from left to right and from up to down. I want to finish with the Met logo. So I'm going to create a frame box. I'm using the frame. Here it is. And you'll notice that you can have round frames and polygon frames if you want them. So I just drew this box. This is how you bring an image in. This is the correct best practice. File, place, and you navigate to your image. I have the logos here. And you bring it in. Now, you say to me, Chris, clearly this logo does not fit in this picture box, this frame, this outside blue frame. And I say, you're absolutely right. I'm going to go to Object, Fitting. This is the one, Fit Content Proportionally. You don't just want any of these because they're going to bring it in non-proportionally. This is what you want. And as you can see, it has fit from edge to edge, and I've got a little bit more frame top to bottom. I'm going to go back into preview mode so I can see this. Now, this is tight. I don't like this. So I'm going to come up here to my reference point, set my reference point to the bottom right-hand corner, and I'm going to start making this smaller. There are other ways to do this. I could put one finger on the Shift key and come down, and then I can fit it again. I can put a finger on the Shift key and the Command key and do this, and you see that it's scaling with me. So those are the two ways that you can do this, or I can keep using these, right? My choice. So there's my logo. And I also have, by the way, a horizontal logo. So if you decided that you didn't want to use the logo down here, you could use the horizontal version of the Metropolitan Opera logo here. That's your call. If you decide to replace the headline with the logo, I wouldn't be mad. That's a choice that you can make, but make sure it's big enough that I understand that hierarchically you want me to read it first. Let's talk about bringing in images. I have so many choices here. I could bring images in that represent the operas. So I'm going to click on this frame that I've drawn and hit place. And let's see, I have visuals to play with. Here is, this is Madame Butterfly. So let me just zoom in. So I have the frame is this blue box. The image is this red box. You can see when I click on it with my direct selection tool, see how it lights up out here? That's the image. And if I click and hold with the direct selection tool, I can see the edges of the image. I can see how much bigger that image is. So I'll come down here. I want Butterfly centered in the frame. I'm going to put my finger on the Shift key, and I'm going to push in, and I can scale it, and then I can redo it. And then I can come back to my regular selection tool. I can click on this frame, and I can redraw the frame up. Bring this one up. So this one I'll bring in, let's see, what will I bring in? I'll bring in Lavoine. All right, so there's Mimi and Rodolfo. And again, if I click and hold, you can see that I'm bringing this in. Now, I think you can see, do you see that she's getting kind of fuzzy? I grabbed this image off the internet, and she's quite large. So if it's a low quality image, you're going to see this kind of pixelation happen. I'm going to make her smaller by clicking up here. See, she's getting smaller in the box. The other way I could do this is to back out, put my finger on the shift key, scale her down. So I'll do her here. And as I mentioned in class, it's up to you whether or not you want to write captions for these images. I'll grab her finger on the shift key, finger on the option key. Shift key drags it across a horizontal axis. Option makes a copy, exactly like in Adobe Illustrator. So maybe I want a little one. I'll do this image of Akhenaten. I'll hold down the shift key so I'm getting his face. So you see what I'm doing here. I'm kind of building up a collage of images. And I can make them touch. I can do this. Whatever you want to do is fine. And again, you have a choice. I'm going to bleed this off the edge. I'm going to bleed this off the edge. Your choice is, you have a plethora of choices here. You could add a caption. I could put a caption right in here, right? Let's say I wanted to bring Akhenaten down so that he's almost the same size. I'm going to go to preview mode so I can see what this is looking like. I'm going to go get myself a text box, and I'll put it here, and I'll say top Madama Butterfly. You get the idea. You can put in captions, copy as much as you want. Bottom left, La Boheme, and then Akhenaten. I'm probably going to spell this wrong. Anyway, so you can caption it. You don't have to caption it. It's up to you. This is your choice. It's your poster. What do you think makes the most sense? So that's one way to do it. Another way to do it, let me pull these off to the side. Let's say I did the full measure, and I wanted the images to sit, like I wanted Madame Butterfly to be with Madame Butterfly. Well, if I take Madame Butterfly and I move it to where Madame Butterfly actually is in the text, so if it's going to go here, then I need to, I'll trim this to my grid. Don't forget about your grid. But you can see it's covering up the text. So I'll click on it. I'll go to Window. I'll go to Text Wrap. Now, these are my options for Text Wrap. I'm going to do a separate video for Text Wrap. I kind of shit the bed in the class. I've completely missed. They have changed Text Wrap so much in the last couple of years that I screwed it up. I'm going to do a separate video on Text Wrap. But for now, if I just want the text to keep away from the image within the square grid, I can use the wraparound bounding box. And you see the moment I hit that, the text kind of dances away from the bounding box. And if I want more space, these are the margin controls. So if I decided I wanted more space below, I could just add more space. I think you can see this very thin line. That's the margin. When I reach the point where the margin is wide, see that? It just kicked it back. Now the important part here, I'm going to take this away. The important part here is that I keep Madame Butterfly with Madame Butterfly. So maybe I want it below the title. So it's between the title and the text copy. Unmistakably, this is, I don't have to caption this. If I put Madame Butterfly image between the Madame Butterfly headline and the copy, remember that proximity implies relationship. There's no question of the relationship here, right? That's not an implication. That's just saying this image is Madame Butterfly and belongs in there. So that's another example. I can put the images to the side. I can put the images, we call this an inline image, when the images kind of follow. And I can do that everywhere. I can find an image. I think I have an image for the Amazing Adventures of Cavalier and Clay. So I can create a frame. Now, here's another way to do it. Hang on. if I just decided that I wanted to place the image of the Amazing Adventures of Cavalier and Clay, where is it? Here. Here. So this is an image of the stage. I'm just going to grab it and place it in the document. So it just popped into the document without the frame. You say, oh, well, there's no frame on this. Like I drew a frame for the other ones. There actually is. And again, if I take my direct selection tool and I hover, you can see there's the frame. The frame, when you just grab something and throw it in the file, is the same size as the actual image. This is the actual edge of the actual Photoshop file. And again, if I turn this on, you can see I'm going to need to pull the frame out. And then there's a couple of ways I can do this. I could set my reference point and make this larger. I can grab the Shift key and the Control key or the Command key and pull and scale it up, or I can use these controls. Now, you can see the mistake that I made. I didn't have my finger on the Shift key when I pulled this out. Do you see that I non-proportionally scaled this image? Now, it's only by about 1%. It's still a bad idea. So I'm going to click on the button and it'll snap back to a proportional image. Here's the thing. Up here, if I decided I wanted Madame Butterfly under the headline, I should probably be consistent and put the Amazing Adventures image in the same place, and then come over here to text wrap and switch that on. All right? No law that says I absolutely have to, but especially since this is at the bottom of the column, I think I can get away with it. So there's the second way, right? The first way, I created a collage kind of off to the side. The second way, I'm creating these inline graphics. Let's look at the third way. The third way is kind of the exciting, dare I say, sexy pants way. So I'm going to create a box. I'm going to go right over the edges, talk more about bleed next Friday. And because I'm working with a full image, I'm going to go to Window. I'm going to turn on my layers. This should look familiar. This is just like Adobe Illustrator. I'm going to make a new layer. I'm going to pull that layer under, and I'll call the top layer Type and Logo. And I'll switch it off. Same way I do in Adobe Illustrator. There's nothing different. All right, so somehow my picture box, I will pull it down. Okay, so now I'm going to bring in an image. And I will bring in this image of Akhenaten. Now, this image, if I bring it in, will only cover the bottom third of the image. So let's switch gears for a second and talk a little bit about color. If I go to Window, Color, Swatches, as you can see, I have quite the arrangement of colors that I can work with. And it's just like in Adobe Illustrator, I can add as many new color swatches as I would like. I can use the eyedropper tool, for example. Here's my eyedropper tool. I could sample this incredible orange. And now that I've sampled it, here it is in my fill box, I can say new color swatch. I can add that color swatch if I want to. But let's keep going. So I think you can see that the image only comes up to this far. So if I click and I say fill the box with this black, so I've sampled the black from the top of the photograph. Not all blacks are built the same, and so I want the same black that's in the photograph. You can actually see, I don't know if you can see it from your screen, but you can see a small difference between the black that I filled in and the black of the image. If I was doing this for realsies, I would go back into Photoshop and add the black in Photoshop. And I could show you how to do that. But now that I've done that, well, now I've got to go back to my type. I'm going to switch the picture layer off for a second. And it's good that my swatch menu is here, because now I can start picking things. So let's say I pick that amazing orange for the Metropolitan Opera. And then I make everything else paper. Paper equals white. When you're talking about paper, you're talking about white. So I'm going to grab all of this stuff and I'm going to turn it white. And if I switch it back on, that's a little better. I don't know about this. And this is not a great crop. I'm right over Akhenaten's head, which is not the best choice. So I'm going to come in here. I have a break character, a column break that I inserted right here. I'm going to delete it. And then I can take this one and say, insert the break character. That's where I want the column break. And then I think, let's see. Okay. So this is kind of getting better. I'm going to insert another column break. This text is talking about Akhenaten. That's Akhenaten's picture. So probably what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to see what I can do to the top of this poster. I'm not going to throw my grid out the window. Oh, no, I'm not. I'm going to move this up. And you say, you're off the grid, Chris. And I say, yeah, I know, but give me a break. I'm still working with my columns. I'm off the horizontal, but I don't think the grid police will come and get me. And then I can lock the type layer down, and I can push that down. Now, you say, what about the logo? I can't really read what's going on with the logo. Well, the good news for me is there is a version of the Metropolitan Opera logo where the type is white. I know I said to some people on Friday, don't change the color of the logo. But in this case, because there's precedent for this, if I go to the website, I can see it. I'll go into this Illustrator file and I'll change that type white. Watch how I do this. Because I brought the image in correctly using the place command, if I go to the links window, you can find it over here, L for links. There's the logo. That's the file. It's a live file. It's not embedded. And so if I come over here and I say edit with Adobe Illustrator, Adobe Illustrator will open. The file will open. I can come in here and make this change. You all know how this works. I'll spot you this much. You can change the gray to white if you're having a problem. And I come back here. The first time you change the image, it's a gimme. The program will automatically update the image for you. If I do it again, let me see if I can make it do this so that you can see the difference. I'm going to go back. Yeah, no, it's not going to let me go back. All right, don't do this, but I'm going to make up a color. Never do this, okay? This is just for purposes of demonstration. I'm going to save this and go back. See, I must have my auto update on. So here's the thing. There, you see that? Do you see the little triangle that says modified? Double click to update. That's InDesign saying to you, hey, this image has been changed. In some other program, the image has been changed. So if you see this in your links folder, you're either going to see this one and you say, okay, come on over here, update the link. If you see that, then you can see it's gone back. If you see a red question mark, that means you've broken the link, which means that InDesign cannot find the image. And so you have to recreate the link. You have to go find that image. So when I said to you in class, don't let your images get too far from your InDesign file. Create a folder, mark it as your project folder, put the InDesign file in it, put your images in it, everybody together, one big happy family. Now I've got to solve for this because this is not working. All right, so that's 3 different ways that we can do this. You can create a collage of small images. You could put an image in the background and you can kind of work the text around it. You can put the images in line. I don't care what kind of image it is, but you must use some type of image. All right, it can be something that you draw in Illustrator. It can be something that you create in Photoshop. It can be images of the opera that you find online. You can combine them. There's no law that says I can't do this. And let's see. I could bring in another image. If I had an image of La Fille du Régiment, the sweetheart of the regiment, the daughter of the regiment. Let's pretend that this is that image, right? Object fitting. I could do both. I could do an inline image. Here, let me show you something else. See how I did fit to box? You see how all this extra frame? If I go back to fitting, and this time I say fit the frame to the content, see how the frame has kind of trimmed in? And so I can do this. I can come over here. I can push. I'll do it just on the right side. Kind of push that out. There's no reason you can't combine a background image and inline images if you want to. By all means, go ahead. Let's see. Okay, so the last thing I think I covered, I'm trying to think of everything for the folks who weren't here. I covered this tool. This is the gradient feather tool. And if I grab this tool, if I unlock this layer and I grab this tool, and I use it, it's like the gradient tool, which by the way, you can do gradients, but it feathers everything out to a transparent background. So I can feather the image to a transparent background. In that case, I would go back in and make the type black again, unless, hang on a second, I'm going to make a third layer. I'll drag it to the bottom. I am going to make another box. I'll fill it with dark blue. So I have like a sandwich here. I have the dark blue layer. I have the image on top of the dark blue layer. If I go to the effects menu, which is under E for effects, this is how you do transparency and blend modes in Adobe InDesign. So if I grab the image and I multiply the image against the background, see the effect I get? And if I say, okay, that's way too dark, I can play with the opacity exactly the way I did in Adobe Illustrator. And then at this point, I think I want something like this. It's turning into almost a watermark at this point. And I can do that. And I can add that. Now, this makes no sense. You can't see Akhenaten. But you see my point. All of these tools are at your disposal. I've got the lecture that I did on Wednesday with all of these tools written out is up in week 14. I will post a video probably tomorrow morning talking about the text wrap tool. As I said in class, try not to go crazy with the text wrap tool. But just to give you an idea, it's all there for you. You can do Illustrator images, you can do Photoshop images, you can combine Photoshop and Illustrator. If you want to do something in Photoshop and you can't figure out how to do it, ask me and I'll show you how to do it. All right? Monday night, I want to see some in progress. Does not need to be finished. I just want to see what you're working on. Okay.